Guess what, guys? I've got another Breya game for you. Small caveat, actually. I'm playing against this guy, Despair Faction, who informed me right when we started to play that he's actually seen some of the videos online. And he also informed me shortly after we began that I wasn't playing French. Apparently, he listed that he wanted to play French EDH, and I missed that note because it's very clunky and difficult to see in Magic Online. So unfortunately, he is playing a French version of the format, at least according to what he said, and I am most certainly not. But that does not prevent it from being an awesome game, as you will soon see. This is one of the better games I've played in quite a while. All right, so he is using the seldom seen Aurelia, the War Leader. I mean, yeah, it's red-white, right? What are you going to do? Red-white just doesn't have the greatest selection of generals to work with, unfortunately. I guess this is one of the better ones. If you have the stuff to support it, it certainly works very well with equipment. But overall, 6 mana for a 3/4 just doesn't quite cut it. Plus, the colors are probably the two worst colors in all of EDH. But he's going to make a game of it regardless. And here we go. All right, he's mulliganing. And actually, I don't know if he mulligans, but looking at my opening hand, this is, of course, a no-brainer mulligan. I have a Badlands and literally nothing I can play in my opening draw, so that's just an easy throwback. Actually, I think I already mulliganed. Yeah, that's 6 cards, so mulliganing a second time. That's right. My first draw had a Mana Crypt and a single land and nothing to do with it at all. I think I had Batter Skull. A Plateau was my only land, along with Mana Crypt. I had Vandal Blast, which was kind of cool, but a bunch of blue spells and really just a completely unplayable opening 7. So thrown back for the last 6, and then I've got this one, which is pretty solid. And you notice it's got Knight's Whisper in there. I think Nate and I were tinkering around with this card. I have it in here right now, just because it's just very compact, small value. It gives you something very solid to do at the beginning of the game. It's really good for recovering from mulligans. I don't think he's using it anymore, and I'm kind of on the fence about it, but it serves me quite well in this game. And other than that, I've got solid mana draw. Obviously, I've got the Workshop, but maybe I'll get lucky and draw the 3 mana artifacts that it really works well with, especially the Crucible to go with the Strip Mine. All right, so it looks like he mulliganed once, and I scry into the top end. I think with the amount of mana I have in my hand, I think that this card certainly makes sense to keep, even though I have no fetch lands, so I'm going to put it back there. I'm just going to get it because I've got all colorless mana except for 1 blue-black land, so I really need to get I really need to get some other colored mana, and I think the top is probably a good way to do that. Plus, I've got Strip Mine to stall. So I'm going to take some damage here. Or not take any damage, I mean. Just play the Tap Water Grave. He plays Flagstones, so I will not be strip mining him. At least not yet. Alright, I knew I was going to get that. So I give some thought to playing Ancient Tomb here, using the Tomb to cast Knight's Whisper, and then playing the Divining Top. But ultimately I decided that it wasn't worth the 2 life loss to do that, because red-white tends to be pretty aggressive, and with 30 life points, every point of life can actually wind up mattering, and you need to be a little bit more discretionary with that. So, with that said, I'm just going to cast Knight's Whisper here. And I get Land Tax and Map. So, not the 2 best cards I would like to see right now. Again, Land Tax completely continues to underperform for me, and I think this game may have been the clincher. I think I'm probably going to just take it out of my deck and remove some of the basic islands, which I also drew this game, as you'll see, that really screwed things up and made it a lot harder to do well. I think having to play with lots of basic land in a deck that's quite greedy and uses all 4 colors is just too decadent, and it's just not worth it to accommodate land tax. And yeah, even though the map gives me a second color, and I could ideally get into get white mana with it and play land tax, then I'd have to wait a couple of turns, and that's only going to give me islands, and I'm still not necessarily getting red or more black mana either. Alright, he's got Arid Mesa, Steel Shaper's Gift. Huh, alright. I think if I were him, I'd be a little reluctant to cast this so early. I assume he's got multiple different types of equipment in his deck, and I think you should probably save it. Given that it's so cheap, it's only 1 white mana, you should probably wait and see where the game's going to go before you tutor for something with the gift, because you might want to Skull Clamp later, and I assume he probably has that in the deck. I could be wrong, but maybe the swords. Anyway, he gets Mask of Memory, which is a very underrated piece of equipment. I think this equipment is actually quite incredible. I've seen it do a lot of good work. People don't really play it very often, though. Wouldn't honestly be too bad in Breya, to be honest. He gets a Plateau. I'm not sure why he would get that over the Sacred Foundry unless he's got Sacred Foundry in his hand. But regardless, time to strip mine. Draw Cyclonic Rift, totally useless right now. So I'm going to play the Workshop and play the Divining Top off of it, just to save life points again instead of playing Ancient Tomb. And that allows me to also play the Divining Top and keep mana available. So come on, top. I really, really need a source of white mana. Ugh. Yuck. Alright. Stack Faden. That's pretty handy if I can get a red, because then I'll be able to steal the Mask of Memory to prevent it from being a problem. But there's also a Winnow Orb up here, which is kind of interesting. And even though neither of us have much mana in play, I kind of foresee that I may be casting the Orb early in an effort to just slow him down, to allow me to grind my way out of this. Plus, if I am able to get white mana, land tax plus Winnow Orb is actually quite a good combo, because your opponent will be compelled to just continue to play lands over and over again just so they can do anything, and that allows you to start activating land tax and going nuts with it. So I'm not going to draw the Orb now. I'm just going to put Brainstorm on top for the time being with Dak Faden underneath it and see what happens here. Mountain Plains. Seal of Cleansing. Rats. Alright, well, I guess has the foresight to just kill off the Expedition map while I'm tapped out, which I completely agree with. I would do the absolutely would do the same thing, especially after my opponent had double mulliganed, and when their third land was Mishra's Workshop, which is certainly a tell that indicates that may be the only lands that I have. So I think sealing here makes a lot of sense. Alright, Brainstorm. I know Dak Faden's on top. Alright, come on, deck. And Winnow Orb. And an island. Okay, well, the island's handy, but unfortunately it's just more blue mana when I really, really need red. Or at least white. White would probably be better, because it would allow me to reshuffle and put some of this junk back as well. But unfortunately, I can't do that. So I'm going to just play the island, and I'm going to just play Winnow Orb here, just to slow him down. And hopefully buy myself some time to draw into red mana or a fetch land or something. He just says done. That's very interesting. Now I really don't understand why he got Plateau over the Sacred Foundry. But whatever. Alright. End of turn. I'm going to save my mana, because I don't really have any reason to Divining Top here. Not yet. I really need to draw that Cyclonic Rift anyway. Alright, so we're just hanging out. But I feel pretty protected behind the Winnow Orb, honestly. I'm not too scared. Alright, there's Sacred Foundry. Right when I started talking about it. 3 mana. Okay, what could it be? Oh my goodness. Chromatic Lantern. Oh man, how bad do I want red right now? Come on, deck. I believe in you. Do you believe in me? Apparently not. Land tax, Mystical Tutor, and the ultimate insult, Necro, sitting on top of my deck when I have 1 black mana and some colorless garbage. Ugh, this is such a gory spot all of a sudden. Okay, well, my only option here really is to get Mystical Tutor, put it on top of my deck, and reshuffle in an effort to try to get to Dak Faden as quickly as I can. Because if I can steal the Chromatic Lantern with Dak Faden with a Winnow Orb on the table, I'm pretty much guaranteed to win, I think, because I'll be able to cast Breya, and he's just going to be mired in molasses the whole time. Alright, come on, deck. Alright, so I'm Mystical Tutoring right now. And there are a few choices here. I think you could make a case for Impulse. Impulse wouldn't be too bad. Problem is that I can't cast Dak Faden this turn no matter what. Or, well, I mean, I guess there's... Is it within the realm of possibility? No, I think only getting 1 card I couldn't cast Dak Faden, because I'd have to cast Impulse off the Water Grave. That would be tapping out my blue mana. So even if I get a red mana source, I wouldn't be able to cast Dak Faden this turn, and he's going to get another untap step. And I decide that this Cyclonic Rift is just doing nothing, and that I'd rather just get Force of Will, show it to him that I actually have the Force, and kind of let him know that he needs to be careful about what he plays from this point onward. So just having the threat of Force of Will in my hand, I think, might incentivize him to try to play around it. And again, this is entirely just a stalling plan. Get him to play slow so that I can get red mana source off the Divining Top, steal the Chromatic Lantern, and take the game over. So that's what I'm going to do. I go and I tutor for Force of Will and put it on top of the deck. I'm going to go look anyway. Interesting. So I'm still looking for red. Of course, obviously, I put Force of Will there, but if there's a red mana in the bottom 2 cards below it, that doesn't require me to sack a fetch land, then I can cast, I can draw it right immediately with the Divining Top, and with that last floating mana in the Water Grave, I could steal the Chromatic Lantern. Unfortunately, there's just another stupid island there, and a Soul Ring, which I'm not too actually happy to see right now. So I'm just going to put them in that order and chill. Alright. he just says done again, which is fine. And during my upkeep, after I don't untap, he casts Wear on the Winter Orb. Another interesting play, and I kind of like his timing there because I've already missed my untap step. And I decide with him having 3 lands tapped out and me just hunting for the red mana for Dak Faden that I can safely do this now. So I'm going to draw the Force of Will and throw away the useless Cyclonic Rift. And I guess I could have bounced the Coalition or the Chromatic Lantern with the Cyclonic Rift. That would probably not have been the worst play in the world either. But I kind of decided that I just really, really wanted to steal it, like more than anything. All right, so I'm going to play the Divining Top again, and I'm just going to cast Soul Ring here. Since we're going to just, I feel, have a couple of turns where nothing happens again, that should allow me enough mana to build up again, especially with the top out that's free to use now because of the Soul Ring to get that elusive red. But I am just surviving on the barest amount of resources. This is just one of those games where I'm clinging with just my fingernails to the game, thanks to Winter Orb. It's funny actually how that can happen, especially in games where you mulligan and stuff, where you're basically like by the skin of your teeth. The only thing that's keeping you in the game is the fact your opponent can't untap, because I have nothing right now versus 6 cards in hand. Okay, so there was, I think I flashed past the first card. I think it might have been a counterspell. But this is Fabricate and Crucible of Worlds. So Crucible of Worlds, very, very interesting, especially given that I've got a strip mine in my graveyard. So I'm going to go with that game plan. As nice as Fabricate would be, because Fabricate obviously gets me the Mox Opal, and that would give me access to all colors of mana, provided he didn't have a way to destroy it. And that would enable the Dak Faden. But I feel like, given that he's missed a few land drops, if I can get the Crucible strip mine to stick, it may not even matter, and I may be able to just wrap the game up right now. End of turn, he tithes. All right, well, that's going to complicate things. Unfortunately, even though I've got a bunch of junky land, I have more land than he does, so he gets two basic planes. Untaps and casts Thran Dynamo. Oh, my goodness. Oh, that's nightmarish. All right, and the Mask that he tutored for ages ago. So now, suddenly, he just leapt way, way ahead of me. So even though I have the ability to recur Strip Mine, that may be completely irrelevant here, especially because any of his lands produce whatever color mana he wants. So he has a minimum of 5 to work with. And bad things happen at 5 mana. Obviously, I'm tapping the Workshop so I can cast Crucible. And I know that there's a Fabricate on top of my deck, so I still have the opportunity next turn to untap another island, Fabricate for the Opal, and start going to work. I guess, yeah, I'm still going to be 1 mana short, unfortunately. Although, no, I guess I can replay the Strip Mine and use it that way. Yeah, that's how I'll do it. And I'll be able to cast Dak Faden and probably steal the Thran Dynamo. So I'm sitting here like thinking, okay, please untap something besides this. Because if he untaps the Flagstones, I obviously can't destroy it. I think, yeah, I guess it comes into play tapped. God, I might even honestly destroy the land that he gets. I mean, if he untaps the Flagstones, I might honestly even destroy it because of under Winter Orb, it still comes into play tapped. But I'm hoping he won't even bother to do that. And sure enough, he untaps the Sacred Foundry, so I'm very happy to destroy that. 5 mana. What could that be? Doe. God damn it, that's so bad. Well, the only silver lining of this is that I get to untap 3 land next turn with a Fabricate on top of my deck. But in terms of the resource deprivation here, this is almost a death blow. I have Dak Faden in my hand that I can't cast. I'm miles from playing Breya. I'm about to lose Crucible Strip Mine Lock. I'm losing the Soul Ring, the Winter Orb that's keeping him in check, and the Divining Top, which allows me to search. Ugh, it's so brutal. I mean, obviously I can draw a card with the Divining Top, which is certainly what I'm going to do. But I am just blown out by this. Yeah, there's a Forbid, I think, 2 cards down or 3 cards down. But there's no way I could cast it. So yeah, there it is right there. So I look one more time. Sure enough, Island, Fabricate, Forbid. Oh, man. Okay, well, gotta try. So at this point in time, when I looked at this situation, he's got 4 cards in hand, and he's coming up on, he has 8 mana available, which means that he's going to be able to cast his General and put Mask on it, and I have no defense against it at all. I was nearly certain that I was going to lose the game here. And we'll see. That may actually occur. Okay, so I'm going to fabricate right now, given the fact that the other 2 cards on top of my deck are relatively useless. And I go get Chromatic Lantern myself, because at least that turns on all my mana. And I've got to just hope that that with the Vandal Blast gone and the Wear and Tear gone, that he doesn't have another artifact kill spell. So I'm going to play the top and just use it right now. And there's no help on top. There's all the dual lands that I needed earlier. So I'm just going to put the Scalding Tarn on top of my deck so I can reshuffle next turn. And I'm prepared to take a beating here. Mr. Despair Faction does not disappoint. Down comes Aurelia with a Mask. 2 attacks. I'm going to take 6 generally. He's going to draw 4 and discard 2. So gnarly. Bash. And now he gets to discard Sphere of Safety. Sort of propaganda, weird propaganda style card. Obviously useless against me. And there's another attack. Smash. Cast Magma Quake. Huh. Alright. Well, yeah, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do at this point. He's got 9 mana now, and his hasted guy. At least there's one hope. Let's see what I draw. Alright. The hope is Breya and Prey. Well, if anything can carry me through this, it's the power of Breya Ethereum Shaper to maybe by some miracle turn this game around. We'll see. All right, he's got 7 cards to my 1 and more mana in play, and this ridiculous general. So he taps. I see him tapping a bunch of mana. He plays a Boros Signet, which is inconsequential, and he casts Chandra Flamecaller. Now keep in mind, he's playing with some of these janky things, I think, because he's playing the French EDH version. So, yeah, I don't think I've ever played against Chandra Flamecaller, but boy, does it work well with Aurelia. You get 2 attacks out of those elementals, so that's 12 extra damage. Yeah, and I certainly can't do anything about it. And so he makes... I'm just going to sack in response, since I know the top 2 cards in my deck are garbagey. I'm going to use the Divining Top right now. Forbid, Remand, and Talisman. Alright, that's actually pretty good. If I can somehow engineer a situation where I can get I can get moderate control of the board. But if Breya is good at doing anything, it is getting control of the board. And I actually, after he makes his tokens, and I think about this for a little bit, and obviously I don't want him to attack with this, because then these things will swing twice. But I realize that I have a pretty much perfect play to contain the entire turn, provided he doesn't have 2 more something to do for 2 more mana. So watch this. Before he declares his attack, and I guess I could do this inside of his attack, although I don't think it really makes any difference. I draw a card with the Divining Top, and then, with the ability still in the stack, I'm going to sack the top and sack one of my Thopters to take out Aurelia. That kills her and draws the Forbid without having to redraw the top, which is actually quite nice. And these 2 dudes are screaming in. I can actually block and kill one. And this is critical, because I've left 5 power and creatures on the board, and he's got a 5 power Planeswalker. And when I see him just tap 1 mana to cast Expedition Map, I'm starting to feel pretty good all of a sudden. Because I know a Remand's coming too, and his Aurelia is going to cost a ton of mana. Plus, I'm going to be able to Dak Faden away this Thran Dynamo. So first things first, I'm going to grab the Dynamo. So delicious. That's a 6 mana swing there. And I'm bash in and kill Chandra. A bunch of mana. He casts Return to Dust, targeting Thran Dynamo and the Coalition Relic, or the Chromatic Lantern. And I think about this for a long time, and I think about, do I really want to forbid here? I mean, obviously I really want to counter the Return to Dust, but there's a reasonable chance that if I remand here, he may wind up retargeting something different on the next turn, depending on the way the board is. I really want to keep the Thran Dynamo in play, and it's possible he may just misplay the Return to Dust. Plus, I'm pretty confident he doesn't have another land. I've seen both of the planes that he tithed for, and yeah, I'm pretty sure he can't cast Return to Dust this turn if I remand. So I decided to go in for the remand instead of forbidding. And there may have been an argument also there for. You notice I tapped the Ancient Tomb. I probably should have tapped Island and Watery Grave and left 2 mana open with the Ancient Tomb, just in case he did in fact have another land. And if he cast the Return to Dust again, I could at least use Breya to gain some life back. I would have sacked these 2 and gained 5 for sure. But sure enough, I guessed correctly, and all he has is Crucible of Worlds. And he's got Arid Mesa, which he sacks and gets Mistveil Plains. All right, still kind of in the driver's seat. I've got Dak running. All right, come on, Dak Faden, deliver the goods. Necro and Chromatic Lantern. Beautiful. All right, I'm going to throw away the island and the tie. The reason why is because I want to keep the talisman, because the talisman is 2.5 life points, and that's super relevant when I'm down to 11 and I intend to cast Necro to fill my hand up. So I'm going to use the workshop to do that. And I'm leaving this thing back for obvious reasons. The one damage that it will inflict is nowhere near as important as the potential to block something big and hasty, so that I can deal with it in a more roundabout way without having to worry. Because I can always block and sack the Thopter as well to Breya to gain 5 again. All right, down comes Necro at 11. I'm not gonna screw around. No over necroing. I'm just gonna draw 6. Ponder, Bloodstained Mire, Teachings, land, scroll, land. All right, very, very solid actually. I have the ability to cast Mystical Teachings and Mana Drain if I need to, depending on what his next turn is. I also can get a utility spell, and worst case scenario, I can just forbid with buyback and throw away some of these superfluous lands. So even though I'm down to 5 and it's a red-white deck with hasty stuff, I'm feeling honestly pretty good all of a sudden. Just plays a land. There's the Return to Dust again, and this time, as predicted, instead of going these two, he goes Chromatic Lantern and Necro. And I'm like, dude, I'm at 5. Why are you killing Necropotence? That's amazing. So, yeah, that gives me the ability to just sacrifice. And I understand why he's killing Chromatic Lantern over, say, the Thran Dynamo, because it does chop up my mana. But he's got to figure that I just drew 6. Like, I'm going to get white mana. I've already got plenty of blue. I don't need tons of black for anything but probably Necropotence. So there's probably no reason to kill the Chromatic Lantern. I mean, I guess it makes these two lands a lot better. I don't know. Kind of on the fence about it. Maybe he felt that the colorless mana wasn't that big of a deal. But killing Necro makes absolutely no sense. Folks out there, if you're playing Magic, the decision to kill Necropotence is a very tough one, but it's almost always wrong. Even if your opponent has 20 life points, don't kill their Necro. It's almost always wrong. And certainly in this case, when I'm at 5, it just makes no sense. So I'm more than happy to see him give me my draw step back. And in response, I'm going to set aside 2 cards. But first I'm going to gain 5, of course, to be safe. And I decide I'm going to throw away the tapped Chromatic Lantern, and I'm going to throw away that Talisman over there. So I gain 5. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's right. I sacrificed the token, mainly because I'm not worried about a hasted attack at this point, because I can defend with the Forbid. So yeah, I sacrificed the Thopter and the Lantern itself to gain 5, and now I can feel pretty safe that I can set aside 2 cards. And now my mighty Necro has been exiled. I can no longer recast it with Yawgmoth's Will, which is such a shame. Coercive Portal. All right. I'm completely fine to see him do that. I've got exactly enough mana because I still have mana floating in my pool. Again, he should have just waited for me to... he should have waited for the attack step to end, because that mana would have cleared, and it would have made this play actually a lot harder to decide. But since I still have a mana floating, I'm going to Mystical Teachings for the one perfect target, Vampiric Tutor. I'm like, sure, you can have a Coercive Portal. No problem, man. During upkeep, Vampiric Tutor. I'll give you all 3 guesses about what I'm getting. 3, 2, 1. Time's up. Yeah, it's pretty obvious. Vandal Blast. Returning the favor, right? But before I do that, I'm definitely going to just use Dak to steal his Chromatic Lantern back, since I feel like Dak Faden's utility has run out. And I do have a use for all these lands anyway to feed the Forbid, so I don't really foresee using Dak much more. Besides, he's got no artifacts in his future anyway. Kaboom. Look at that. God, it's so delicious. What is that? 5 for 1? Even better than the one he got on me. I'm going to play a land here. No reason to Merchant Scroll or Ponder right now. I'm just going to sit here and just wait on Forbid. I draw Disenchant, which is pretty handy. Alright, he casts this Legion's Initiative, which is kind of strange. I mean, I guess... I'm not sure why that's in his deck, but I'm sure he has a reason for it. right. Umezawa's Jitte. Pretty fantastic. I'm going to throw the Jitte onto Breya. That's very, very nice to see when I'm at 6, plus it speeds up the clock dramatically. And before damage, he casts Comeuppance. Kind of a random card I have never seen played against me. And down there it says, if damage from a creature source is prevented this way, Comeuppance deals that much damage to that creature. So not only would he prevent me from getting Jitte counters, but he would also kill off Breya, which would be inconvenient. Yeah, for a minute I thought that maybe if it didn't prevent the damage that Breya dealt, and it dealt the damage back to Breya, then if I could stack counters on the Jitte first, I could make her a 6/6, and she'd actually survive damage from herself. But it does not work that way, since her own damage is prevented, and she would just die. So in advance of that, I decided I'm just going to sack Breya and my Talisman to gain 5 more life. And I'll just play her next turn, because that's the beauty of having Thran Dynamo. I'm going to play another land here. And Ponder. Nice, there's a Fact of Fiction on top, which is quite easy to cast. Done again. He's down to 2 cards. He casts land tax. Alright, sure. That's fine. We both have 7. So during the end step, cast Fact of Fiction. Get 3 mana sources and 2 counters. And he fiddles around with these and eventually goes with this. And as much as I'm loath to throw away a Gilded Lotus, I have more than enough mana in play, and I figured that the Mana Leak stops his general, Counterspell stops anything. He only has 1 card in hand. This is pretty much a hard lock on the rest of his game. It's kind of how I view it, especially given that he's at 8 and I've got a Jitte out, which means that I really only have to attack pretty much once with Breya, maybe twice to win the game. So end step, I'm going to disenchant the land tax because I do not want to have to worry about playing my own lands. Draw Coalition Relic. Alright, I'm tapping a bunch of mana here. And you'll see that my mana pool drains and nothing happens. And what actually happened, because I just desynced from the replay, is I cast Breya. And then I believe I cast a Mishra's Workshop also to play Coalition Relic. Yeah, so that's me tapping that. Of course, it's now out of sync, so it doesn't know what to do. And then on his turn, after thinking for a while, he taps all of his mana, and he casts his General again. It didn't let him do it. And I Mana Leaked his General, and then I untapped, I drew the Spire, and equipped through Jitte onto Breya, and bashed in for 6, putting 2 counters on it. And I Merchant Scrolled for Cryptic Command, and on his next turn, he recast his General again, and I cast Cryptic Command to counter it and draw, and then I flashback. I did a flashback of my Mystical Teachings from the graveyard here, right there, to get Whir of Invention. And on my turn, I cast Whir of Invention for 3, and I put Sword of Feast and Famine on Breya, smashed him again, and with the 2 extra Jitte counters, it was exactly the final damage to deal lethal, and that was the end of the game. And I'm sorry that the replay is not cooperating at this point to allow you guys to see that, but it's fairly academic at this point. I mean, once you've gotten this far ahead and you've got more counterspells in your hand than your opponent has cards, it's pretty much writing is more than on the wall. I think this is the thing attempting to let me cast the flashback Mystical Teachings, but whatever the case, that's the end of the game. Hey, look, you can see this part of the game. I thought this was just a phenomenal game in terms of like how it began at the start, how far behind I really was, and how close to death I really was, honestly. And it was just one of those games where I was so tantalizingly close to just flipping the game around with the Dak Faden, and my deck would not cooperate. But if anything, I think this game has taught me a final lesson that it's time for a land tax and 2 of those islands to come out. So the next version of this deck that I play will be slightly different, and I will certainly have more replays for you guys when that takes place. I really hope you enjoyed this game, and there are still more to come. Take care.